Well, hi, everybody. Todd Nash, President of Oregon Cattlemen's Association, here today with Congressman Cliff Bentz. And Cliff, I want to kick this off here and introduce you. You represent the 2nd Congressional District in Oregon, and wanted you to talk a little bit about yourself, where you live, describe the 2nd District and some of the complexities and vastness of that district.
Well, first of all, I was joking earlier calling you Mr. President, but you are the president of the Cattlemen's Association, an organization that I've belonged to for many, many years, and my parents, my grandparents also. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your service as president of the association and working your way up to that level. It's a great association and incredibly important to the future of the cattle industry in Oregon. And so thank you for your work. As far as my district goes, I am very, 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 very lucky to have had the opportunity to serve as state representative of a large part of what is Congressional District 2 for 10 years, and then as a member of the Oregon Senate for 2 years, also in CD2. CD2 is almost exactly 2/3 of Oregon now, and I think it's going to creep up closer to 3/4 of Oregon after the first of the year. And it takes in most of Oregon except for the coast and the Willamette Valley. That area from Roseburg up to Portland I don't have, but from the outskirts of Roseburg to the south down to the California border, and then back around to along California, Nevada, Idaho, Washington State, that's CD2. It's about 69,000 square miles now. It'll go up to around 72,000 square miles after the first of the year, after redistricting. Currently, there's about 840,000 people in CD2. That will drop down to around 720,000 people around after the first of the year, which is supposed to be the identical amount in each of what will be 6 congressional districts in Oregon. The activities, of course, as you well know, in CD2 consist of cattle operations, timber operations, lots of farming, of course, along the Columbia River and over on where I live in Ontario, along the Oregon-Idaho border. And of course, recreation and all the things that go with it. A massive amount of federal land. About 53% of my district is federally held. And so it's a great space. My family has, of course, been in Oregon for, I think we're going to call it 3 generations. But as I look at all of my brothers and having more and more grandchildren, I suddenly realize it's more like 5 generations. But it's a great place to live, and I'm very, very happy to be representing such wonderful people.
Well, thank you for that. I don't think most people realize how large of an expanse you have to cover there, and then how that's calculated out with population rather than districting by geographic area. And so moving into the next question here, what committees do you serve on, and in what capacity are you part of those committees? And then if you make it a little more complex, going into this next year or this next cycle, what are you hoping to see there?
Well, I was very fortunate when I arrived. I follow, of course, Greg Walden, who did a wonderful job for us for 22 years. And by the way, I've only been at this now for 1 year and 8 months, and I must say, the travel back and forth between Oregon and Washington, D.C. is quite the challenge. I know this afternoon I'm going to hop on a plane and fly directly to Portland to appear with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a gathering of Republicans just on the outskirts of Portland. And so that's about a 4.5-hour direct flight to Portland from DCA. The flight, of course, is since the time zones work for you when you fly west, and if you get there on the clock only 2 hours later, but it actually takes 4.5-5 hours to make it. When you turn around and come the other direction, it's just the opposite. You leave in the morning and you get here late. That travel is really challenging. The fact that Greg Walden did it for 22 years, I think he did 640 round trips. It's just crazy, the distance. Well, in any event, since I followed Greg, I had his support in getting on the House Natural Resource Committee, and I'm very happy for that opportunity. I was put on a couple of subcommittees. Indigenous peoples is one. The other is water, oceans, and wildlife. And I was named ranking member, even though I'm just a freshman. Ranking member means you're the top Republican on that committee. It's my hope that if we take the majority in November, and I think we will, it's my hope that I will end up as chair of that Water, Oceans, and Wildlife Subcommittee. And there's nothing guaranteed. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it would be a great opportunity to address issues that are so front and center, as you well know, in our district. I was also put on the House Judiciary Committee. I've been a lawyer for a long time, tried a lot of cases, done a lot of legal work. And so being on judiciary was kind of a natural. I had actually asked for T&I, transportation infrastructure. I did not get on that committee. As it turns out, that was a good thing, because I was put on the antitrust subcommittee of judiciary and the intellectual property sub. And those two subcommittees have done a lot of really interesting work in the big tech space, trying to figure out whether or not we should be breaking up Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook. And those kind of discussions are extraordinarily interesting, and I've been very happy to be part of them. As far as what's going, and by the way, the antitrust subcommittee also addresses the issues of immigration. And as everybody knows, the Biden administration has basically abandoned the border, and the people are coming across literally by the millions, about 250,000 people a month. And the challenge that goes with immigration, and I think everyone would agree, we need immigration. But of course, you want to have controlled immigration so that you can address issues like assimilation and the challenges that go with people that come across that don't yet have jobs. And what's happening now is we have these hundreds of thousands of people coming in under the guise of asylum, and then they have to wait 2 to 5 years before they get a hearing on asylum. And so they're here during that period of time. Many of them do have what amounts to a green card. It's not a green card, but it's a right to work. But they'll also be having total access under the Supreme Court rulings to education, which Todd, as you know, we all pay for, and to healthcare. If you go to an emergency room, hospitals have an obligation to provide care to whoever presents. And so those costs are going to be picked up by the taxpayers. And I think most taxpayers would say, well, wait a minute. We want to control the flow of people that come in, and hopefully the people that come in are going to go to work. And many of these people probably are, but many perhaps are not. And so these are the kind of things that should be addressed, and they're not being addressed. Anyway, our Judiciary Committee is working on that. And so as far as what we're going to do is, should we take power? That's a kind of a long list. And rather than walk down through it, I would ask you what you think we should do when we end up in the majority.
Well, I wasn't prepared for a question on my side of it. So, but there are a number of things that we need to address federally, and water being at the top, and you being well placed there within those committees, and having that knowledge and being a water law attorney. Those storage issues that we seem to struggle with of late. The Klamath Basin is of huge concern, and the agencies just kind of going rogue and taking advantage of people. Those are all major concerns. And then federally, in 3/4 of the state, wolves are listed as an endangered species, and we need to address that. And those guys not being able to take any meaningful management action on wolves in the same way in the Klamath area, but that whole 3/4 of the state as we go forward. There's those things need to be addressed. Forest management for the health of all of us is paramount, and getting our forest in a healthy manner again, getting the hydrology of what is functions out in our forest so that we have water for municipalities and agriculture, I think is huge as well. So there's a laundry list of things that can be done federally that you know, as a young congressman, I don't know anybody that's any more well placed than you are, though, coming in as a freshman. So congratulations for that, and it's well earned just because you've been so disciplined in your studies. And so, you want to add on to any of that rhetoric that I just spewed?
Well, I would only say that I'm absolutely sure that we'll be addressing forest health, because the chairman, I hope, of Natural Resources is Bruce Westerman, and he's of course, an engineer and a forester, and a very, very, very bright person. And his work in the legislature now for the past 8-10 years has been to put together a package of bills called the Forest Resiliency Act, or ACTS. And that package of bills has been refined and refined and refined to address issues that you're totally familiar with, situations where we have over 1,000 trees per acre when we should have closer to 80. And how in the world do we address that kind of issue, which is so impactful in the creation of way too much fuel and the use of way too much water, when we seem to encounter every type of lawsuit filed by the Center for Biological Diversity, for example, and other obstructionist organizations that are basically putting communities at risk and destroying wildlife and doing all the terrible things that wildfire does. And so it's my hope that we'll be able to introduce and have hearings on the bills that Bruce Westerman is bringing, or I hope to be calling him Chair Westerman here for 4 months or 5. And then, so we'll be addressing forest health. We'll be addressing water issues, the Klamath. I've lost track, literally, I've lost track of the dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of telephone calls with people in the Klamath, and more recently with the Assistant to the Secretary of the Interior and the Director of the Bureau of Reclamation, as we were fighting literally fighting Doug LaMalfa, Congressman from Northern California, and I with the Secretary's staff just as recently as 2 weeks ago, trying to obtain water that's there, but is being, I think, inappropriately allocated to in-stream purposes. By the way, as you well know, Todd, the water held in Klamath Lake is stored there by virtue of a dam installed years ago and paid for by the farmers. And that stored water is being held from the farmers, kept away from the farmers, and used to provide flows late in the fall to fish, which those flows wouldn't be there but for the dam. And so to take this water away from the farmers is ridiculous. To put it in perspective, this year, and this is a problem I hope we'll be able to address in hearings and otherwise in about 4 months, but this year the farmers were given 50,000 acre feet of water. Their right under rights issued many years, over 100 years ago, is 350,000 acre feet of water. So the water's there. By the way, the water wasn't there early in the spring, but it was there by the time the end of June arrived. And we end up with 50,000 acre feet out of the 350,000 we were entitled to. That's not right. And we will be calling this out. As far as other issues go, the one that probably I hear the most about now is inflation and the cause of inflation. There's a lot of causes of the inflation situation we're facing, but two of the biggest are the crazy amount of spending that the Democrats did in about the third month I was here, 1.9 trillion. That was what we call helicopter money. It was just money that was scattered across the United States. And that money, many families that received that money didn't spend it. They saved it, and that's a good thing. But what it meant was there's about 2 trillion still in savings waiting to be spent, and that's driving up inflation. That's driving up costs because of the increased demand created by virtue of that 1.9 trillion of helicopter money. So there's part of the problem. The other part of the problem, I know you know all about it, is the incredibly high cost of energy. And the Democrats would try to blame Ukraine. I would say no. The problem is one of years of Democrats saying, no, we're not going to finance oil and gas drilling, and we're going to do all we can to stop the production of oil and gas on our federal lands or any place else for that matter. And that is robbing our economy of available resources and driving up the cost of, well, you know, fertilizer. It's up a crazy amount. I think 30% this year, but a couple 100%, maybe more over the last couple of years. These things are extraordinarily dangerous policies, and it's my hope at the very beginning of next year, we will be addressing as aggressively as we possibly can the lack of gasoline and diesel.
Yeah, you captured a lot of other things there. I just watched a video this morning of you talking about energy, and it is enlightening that now that we're seeing just a little bit of a dip in our energy prices, and it's really due to China and what they've constricted their economy with another lockdown and COVID, and that's likely to go back up again. So as soon as they lift their restrictions, we're likely to see gas prices and diesel prices go up again. So worrisome for sure. Well, Congressman, I don't want to keep you much longer. We really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure working with you when you worked here in the House in Oregon and the Senate here, and we were glad to endorse you, of course, as Oregon Cattlemen's in your bid for Congress, and I can't say enough good about the relationship that we've had with you. Your staff as well, Chief of Staff Nick, Paulette, here locally, Sage and Brianna, they're all great. And Team Bentz, I think you've assembled a great team, and I just want to offer you up some closing thoughts here for the day, and then we'll wrap this up.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for reminding me of your organization's endorsement. It's one of the most important endorsements that I can get. I'm so happy that you endorsed me not only in the general but in the primary, and your support is extremely important to me personally, and I'm very, very, very happy to have that support. The team that you mentioned, you're right. We are, as a district, extraordinarily fortunate that many of the people that work for Greg Walden chose to stay on for Team Bentz, and that has inured to the benefit of our district. And I really can't appropriately express how important a good staff is. You're not going to get much done by yourself here. And by good fortune, I have 19 people, half in Oregon, half here, and they're all doing a great job in helping our second congressional district. I would say my final thought really is, for those watching this, for goodness sakes, vote. Please vote. This particular election, everybody says it's the most important and all of that every election that comes along. But this time around, we have some really good opportunities to take back Oregon from 40 years of mismanagement and kind of a common trend toward a more socialistic government, which I absolutely do not support. And we need to turn that around. We needed to turn around years ago, but we have a real chance in Oregon, in your local races to help. And then in our federal races, we have a great opportunity to win a couple more seats, maybe as many as 3 in addition to mine. And that would be so meaningful nationwide. So I would just say, Todd, again, thank you for this opportunity, and please have everybody vote.
Well, thank you, Congressman. And it would be nice to deliver you into a situation where you're in the majority once in your life. You've served in the minority your entire career, and thank you for hanging in there and being our champion. And
You're entirely welcome. Thanks for this opportunity.
yeah, all right. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye-bye.